Hi, Founder fans. Jason here, and today's founder is Ebenezer Hazard, the Postmaster of the Confederation Congress. Now, Ebenezer Hazard starts the American Revolution as a print shop owner in Philadelphia, but just as hostilities are breaking out, he leaves that position because he was asked to take over as Revolutionary Philadelphia's Postmaster. Now, just a year later, he's actually contacted by the Continental Congress and asked him to take on another really important position called Surveyor General of the Post Office. And in this position, he was supposed to find the best trade routes throughout the colonies with which they could carry their letters. Now, they already had a pretty in-depth system of postal service, thank you, Benjamin Franklin, but Hazard was trying to find the best ones, during wartime that wouldn't have enemies intercepting letters. And he does this for about 6 years until 1782, just after Yorktown, and not long after the Articles of Confederation are ratified, when Ebenezer Hazard is asked to take over as Postmaster General of the United States. And he would hold this position for the next 8 years, most of the 1780s, and almost the entirety of the Confederation Congress, as we like to call the Continental Congress after the Articles of Confederation were ratified. Now, this amount of time in this position might indicate he did a good job, and for most of us, he did a very good job. But in 1788, he makes two changes that are seen as kind of extreme, and a lot of people aren't happy about it. First of all, he decides to change the mail delivery in the northern states from the use of stagecoaches to the use of single riders on horseback. Now, a rider on horseback could travel a lot faster than a stagecoach and could had a lot less upkeep. You only had one horse at a time when a stagecoach has at least two. Stagecoaches have wheels falling off and breaking. It was just a lot easier to have one man on horseback. Now, this did mean they could carry less. And a lot of people were upset because it was carrying less. But Hazard's argument was, well, they move so much faster and we could get more of them going throughout that it shouldn't have that big an effect. The second thing he did that year that really made people mad was he started charging newspaper publishers when they would send newspapers to other states. Now, this seems normal on the outset, pay your postage, right? Unfortunately, at the time, it had been for a very long time a custom where if you printed a newspaper in one state, you would send free copies to publishers in other states so that the information could be republished. Now, this was just kind of a long-standing tradition, and this was a custom Hazard didn't like. He wanted to raise money for the post office to make it valuable, and he did that by charging newspaper owners for mailing their newspapers. I mean, they were already charged to mailing it to subscribers. Why not be charged to mail it to other publishers? Of all the people who got really mad about this was George Washington. And I will note that, as I said, it was 1788 during the Constitutional Ratification Convention, and the members of the Continental Congress, the Constitution was already being seen as the elite trying to take over the government of the separate states in many circles. And to be fair, the Constitutional Convention did meet in secret, which added to that. And now this decision to have newspaper publishers be charged when they mailed the articles everywhere to be published elsewhere, it looked as a way of suppressing information. Now, Ebenezer Hazard did find himself associated with the Federalists, so if this happened, it was surely not his intention. But Washington certainly felt that this gave an air of trying to keep information quiet while they're ratifying the Constitution, as opposed to making all the information public, which really actually happened very well, and didn't have an effect. It ended up passing the Constitution anyway. Now, General Washington becomes President Washington shortly thereafter. The funny thing is, as with most acting chairmen of different departments, Ebenezer Hazard became acting Postmaster General under the presidency of George Washington, much like John Jay was Secretary of State under the Confederation Congress and was acting Secretary of State under George Washington until Thomas Jefferson showed up. Henry Knox was Secretary of the War, and then he became not only acting but actually Secretary of the War under President Washington. So Ebenezer Hazard is actually the first acting Postmaster General in the history of the United States. To be fair, Washington appoints Samuel Osgood, who then comes and takes over. and is the first official postmaster and is often looked at as the first postmaster of the United States. But Hazard was there doing the work, helping with the transition and obeying Washington's commands during this early period of American history. After this, it's interesting because after this, Hazard does try to run for office unsuccessfully several times. He seems to be a little bit nervous about joining private life, but he ends up creating a company called the Insurance Company of North America. And he, along with several other investors, start this insurance company that covers both life insurance and marine, ship insurance, fire insurance. And it's fascinating because this is really the first time one insurance company covers everything. Now, say what you will about insurance company nowadays, but a lot of what they do can be traced to Ebenezer Hazard because he was the first one to not only protect the house that people lived in, but the belongings and people inside the house as well. It was a new idea, and it went swimmingly because it's still essentially how things work today. So that's a little bit about Ebenezer Hazard, not the first Postmaster General, but the Continental Confederation. I'll say that again, the Confederation Congress's Postmaster General. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely hit like, hit subscribe for a new video 7 days a week, and I'll be back with another founder for you tomorrow.